Working with curtain walls at Beck, Part 1, Design Curtain Walls. So in our test project here, you see that we've created a building outline. It's rather generic, not basing this off any design. We're just going to organically create a building as we go. The next tool we want to talk about in early design is the use of design curtain walls to indicate where glass could be. If we go to our architecture tab, walls, architectural, and then in the pull down, you can type design, and you'll see all the design walls and design curtain walls. You'll see there's a design storefront and a design curtain wall. The EXT means exterior. The storefront could be either interior or exterior. So at this point, we're not having you define which to use. But so let's take, and I should mention, if you know your system, it's always best to go ahead and put it in, or if you have comfort working with the more intricate systems, go ahead and use those so that you don't have to swap it out later. Because anytime you start with a design wall and change it later, you will have to change it. So, but anyway, for this example, we're going to put in some exterior curtain wall and then some interior. So the curtain wall, you just click and drag and it cuts out the wall. I want to show you why it does that in case you ever didn't want it to do that. The curtain wall assembly has a button here called automatically embed, and if that's checked, it will cut out the host for you. You can see that this is a 2.5 by 7.5 inch system, and it gets defined right here. So if you needed a smaller system or larger system, you would duplicate it. And let's say we have some really deep mullions we want. So we'd say 9.5 inch here and delete that. And just for the sake of this example, we'll make them real fat. So making the new size doesn't change anything. What we need to do now is to create the mullions in order to match that size. So take a look at the name, rectangular mullion. That's going to key you into where you go to change it. And you see the name is design and then the size. So we're going to go down to the project browser under families, curtain wall mullions, and you'll see rectangular mullion. Remember, that was the first choice. And you're going to see lots here. These are all the mullion types we use in our construction-based systems, and we'll talk about those in another video. You want to find the design, and there they are. So you're going to right-click and duplicate, and you're going to rename that the size that we talked about. We're going to do a 4 by, now I can't remember, 9.5, I think is what I said. And then we can double click that and we can change our size. So remember it was a 2.5, so the grid line is the center of a mullion. So you want to make this 2 inch and 2 inch, unless for some reason you wanted it offset. You could also assign the material here, which I highly recommend. If you're doing a dark bronze system or whatever, you would click in here and assign that. And I might even, if you have multiple colors under the name, I would call it design 4.5 by 9 inch dash dark bronze. So we'll go ahead and under the 08, because it's openings, I think is where we put these, but I could be wrong. Yeah, so we can duplicate this and have it 08 AL dark bronze. And we'll call this AL2, since AL1's typically a light bronze. Now I should have checked, because I actually think I'm wrong, and curtain wall mullions are in the 5 series, which might not make any sense. Yeah, so I apologize. I should have picked here. So let's go ahead and fix this. So we'll we'll forget what I just did. 05 aluminum curtain wall, AL2. And if you want, so you know what the difference is, I have no problem in you putting a description on the back here. So now we have a new type. We're going to give it a right identity and make sure you fill out its mark. And again, you don't have to do this immediately, but at some point you will want it to render properly and tag properly. So that's why I'm showing you this portion. So we've got this. We will duplicate this. And instead of clear anodized, we're going to call it dark bronze. And then you can change the color right here to a really deep brown, brownish gray. And there may actually be a dark bronze choice in the library if we went and looked and checked that it render appearance changes with it. And now you're all set there. And said duplicate values because I must already have an AL2, but that's fine. I like to put in a description of what it is. This is if you use a multi-category description tag, what will show up. So if you're drawing your elevations in Revit and want to note this, you might call it exterior, whatever you'd call it. You might do some more descriptive thing there. And type mark, we don't usually type mark out our curtain walls, so I'm going to leave that blank for now. And we say OK. You do want to check the assembly code, though, is important because even early on, model-based estimating can utilize this information. So you want to make sure anything you do has an assembly code. This will help as we want to give our estimating group what they need. So you can see that's now a curtain wall. That's all great. And now nothing changed here, right? Because we've made our type, and I think I forgot to change its depth. So we made it 4 inches there, and now we're going to make it 9.5 inches deep. And the offset controls where it sits relative to the center line of the wall. So you'll see that in a second. You can also angle the walls, which I'll do in a different video. Okay, so now we come back to the wall that we've placed and edit its type. And now that we have our new design size, you can see it there. We can put it there. And what I find quickest is to Control C that, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. And why are there 6 of these? So the interior type, that's going to be vertical interior, is going to be anything inside the jambs. On horizontal, same thing. Any horizontal inside between the head and sill. The border 1 and border 2. In the vertical mullions, one of them is going to be the left jamb, one of them is going to be the right. You don't know which because it depends on which way you draw it. So that's why it doesn't say left or right, because it would be dependent on which way you're looking at the frame. Same with horizontal. One of these is going to be bottom, one of these is going to be top. So if you wanted a system with multiple, like your horizontals deeper, you'd go ahead and make a different size system for the horizontals, and that could be interesting. Maybe we'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, let's finish this and then we can tweak this. So you say okay, and now magically you saw those got bigger. And if I were to type in CG for curtain grid or whatever your hotkey is for curtain grid, we can start to place more mullions around there. If we check their size, you'll see that that's 4 inch and the depth is that 9.5 inch. So that's kind of working with a design curtain wall. So you see how the center of the system is the center of glass. So that offset parameter, if you wanted this a center glazed, you would move this to half of 9.5, or was that 4 3/4, 4.75. Nope, oh, wrong way. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, you'd just say 0, because then it would center on the glass. And let's see if that is accurate. Sometimes I think these are slightly off for some unknown reason, but 4 3/4 and 4 3/4, that is correct. So that's working with design curtain walls. The next video I will link to shows you how to put doors in the design curtain wall. And if I should show you, let's switch to our phase 1. That's previous, set to the annotation phase. If you remember in previous videos, we talked about that. We'll go to phase 1 here, and the annotation phase stuff will turn off, and you'll see our design stuff. Okay, so let's look at the curtain wall that it made. There it is. And the curtain wall was set to from level 1 up to level 2. Let's say you only wanted a 10-foot tall one. You can tell it to be unconnected and 10 foot, and that will go down. And if you remember, we set it to embed automatically, so it is embedding in there. You can add additional curtain grids in the horizontal by hitting your curtain grid tool, which I use CG for mine. If you want to do just one segment, you see by default it's going to go all the way across. You can do one segment. So if you wanted to do something like that, you can do something like that. And all except picked, that's going to do the opposite. So like it will do anyway. So that, and you can also, for your design curtain wall, you can edit the profile of it. If you say you needed an arch, you can do an arch, and you can delete that and finish, and it will fill in. It's telling me that you can't put that one in. That's fine. We'll get rid of it. And then you could, if you needed a curtain grid there, it would need to be a little lower because it just couldn't hit right there. So you would adjust that. So that's your design curtain wall. Quick basics. You can change, you see how the system, I should show you one other thing about these systems. There's no vertical layout set. We'll talk about that in a second. The other piece is join condition is not defined. If you want to control which wins right now, even though it says nothing's defined, it's appearing like vertical grids are continuous. So typically in a curtain wall system, the verticals are continuous, and that means the water is going to drain in, and then these pieces get embedded. But maybe you want horizontal continuous. If I switch that, now you see the horizontals run continuous. And it should be kind of confusing. This should say interiors because it's really only doing the interiors. If you want the border and vertical to be continuous, you'd change to that. Now you see the border's continuous and the verticals are continuous, or you can change to border and horizontal, and the opposite will apply. So that's kind of cool. And finally, if you wanted to change the, let's say you want to change the grids along this, you can right click, select mullions on grid line. Because the type is part of the system, it's going to have pins. You don't have to click each unpin individually. You can click unpin up here, and then we could, if say, swap that with our smaller mullion type. And now, so you can make many different mullion types as you want and start to play with your system. In another video, maybe we'll talk about profiles. You can use profiles to set your shape. But that's all for this video. We're going to move on to putting doors in these design curtain walls next.